Hi everyone, I am gonna start speaking now. I'd like to welcome you all and thanks for making the time to join me, where I'll be discussing the 3Ps, which is purpose, passion, and profession. I think I should start by introducing myself. I am Lerato Solomon and I am 29 years old and I am a legal content developer. I work for a legal software company. So we implement legal software in legal industries, mainly our law firms across Africa. We're trying to move away from the stone ages and using, a lot of paper, and we're just now trying to get the legal industry to just move with the times and digitalize the businesses. And apart from my profession, I think my greatest passion is with women and the youth and development. And I think for most of my life, that is all I have known, that's what I want to do. So with that said, I am a volunteer at a number of women and children's homes. I am also a mental health wellness advocate, and that is a little bit about myself. If you guys have any questions as I'm discussing, you can just post them and then I will answer you once I'm done speaking. So I would just like to go over what propelled me to want to speak about the topic that I have chosen. And I think for most of my life, I personally struggled with finding my feet and knowing what it is that I want to do. I would constantly just move from one job to the other, job hopping. I wouldn't know what it is that I want to do. I think also the circumstances that surrounded me when I was growing up, all I knew was I need to make money when I grow up. People around me are suffering and I need to feed, the family. And I think then when I attained all those things and I got my qualification and I was working, I could still feel that something is still missing in me. Something is missing. Yes, I have my qualifications. Yes, I have the money, but there was still a void inside of me. And that is when I began to ask a lot of things. Do I love what I am doing? Am I happy with what I am doing? And I think what came up was, in fact, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I am constantly job hopping. I'm looking to fill the void, So this became a very close topic. And and I realized that I was not the only one, going through this. I mean, I had spoken to people who are, I have spoken to people who are much older than me, and they come back to me and say, look, I'm just working for the sake of getting the money, And I'm like, but I think that's counterproductive, because when you are just working, you find yourself in an environment where you are just miserable, and that has a ripple effect into every aspect of your life, your family, how you relate with your friends, at work as well, your productivity, as well. And I think that's why this topic is so close to my heart, and I feel like these are the things that we need to sit down. This is one topic that we need to start, speaking more of, realizing that I don't want another Lerato who is 16 years of age, growing up and attaining all these things in life, but only to figure out like, look, I'm now 40 or 35 and I don't know what to do, with my life, or they find themselves miserable. And we hear of people committing suicide. We hear of how, in the later days of before Steve Jobs was, when he was about to die, and he mentioned how, he's attained all these things that he's attained, but there's still that void or something that is missing in his life. So just to proceed, there's a number of questions that were asked, and I'm just gonna rephrase those questions and then answer them. So the first question was, how would I briefly describe passion, purpose, and profession? And I will begin with passion. So passion is what fuels purpose. It is almost that uncontrollable feeling that urges you to pursue an interest. I had an interest in the development of women, and that is one of my passions. And again, when you have a passion, you just don't focus on, it's not just one passion that you have. You can have many passions because these are interests. So you could love art, you could also love cooking, you could also be interested in IT, and that is what I would say is passion. But then again, I have a thing that says passion becomes a passion when so it goes hand in hand with purpose. The passion is the how, and purpose is the why. So you can't do one without the other. And then again, your passion cannot materialize until you act on them, and you act based on the why, so that it fuels your purpose. And again, I've got a saying that your passion remains an interest when you don't act on it. Passion requires commitment, and when you are committed to something, you consistently make time, you obsess over it, you are fueled, and you do not you don't digress from the mission. And which is why it was important for me to align all these things together, because I feel like you cannot have one without the other. And another question is, then how do you know what your passions are? There are those things that make your heart beat fast. Those things where you're constantly thinking about them. When you're thinking of that thing, your spirit gets fired up, and you don't sleep, and you have so many ideas, and you want to do this and you want to do that. And it's the things that you're constantly just thinking about. So it's the things that you are willing to do at any point of time. If somebody woke you up and said, yo, let's do this, and because it's something that fuels your spirit, you would jump up to do it. So that is how I would briefly describe the passion. And I have a saying that says, you are not simply passionate about something just because you like it. There's a purpose behind the passion, and that is a reason behind the driving force. So your purpose is the foundation on which your passion should be built. And then I will move on to purpose. I think I've briefly described it when I was talking about passion, but purpose is not selfish. It is not self-serving. Again, I will repeat that it is your why to your how, which is your interests, your passions. This is the main thing that will fuel you to want to act on your interests and your passions. You know, it is not self-serving. And I think I constantly find myself, wherever I am, asking myself, how can I be of service where I am with what I have? And that is what purpose is. Purpose consists of a variety of factors that work together to make a person live out their talents, their interests successfully in their own unique way. So it could include anything and many things, from helping disadvantaged children to filling the world with beautiful designs and, you know, singing. You know, we that's the nice part about the world, that we are all so dynamic and we have all these individual and unique interests, you know, that when we put together, it just becomes this whole big picture of how we can use all these different components and interests to make an impact, you know, in the world, or for the greater good of the world. I also believe that passion, or that your passion can sometimes or at times change. You know, I believe that there is no need for a person to panic that you have somehow missed your sole purpose in life. So it's a matter of just making sure that you find a piece of it. You know, purpose is your motivation. It is your why. It brings in action. You know, purpose is that one thing that completes you. So don't beat yourself about all the years that you have wasted. You know, and because it is something that you are born with, you can always, you know, ignite it, you know. So you have not missed out on anything. You still have time. And then profession, in short, I would describe it as your line of work. It's the vocation that you gained through your training and your experience. So your training would be, you know, going to school and studying whatever that it is, and the experience that you have in that specific field of work. This is acquired by knowledge and the skill set of the position to accomplish, you know, a certain job. And for many people, I find that their purpose ends with their line of work, which is a profession, or we simply just limit it to that aspect, that when you have attained your qualifications and you find a job, it's like, I'm living the dream. You know, I'm living the dream, I'm living my life, and that's it. That's where it ends. And as I have said, that I was once in a position where I had attained everything that I have, but then I could still feel that I'm not making an impact. And I'll make an example. Everything that I speak of, it is from my personal experience. So everything that I am going to be saying to you, it's based on a true story. It's my experiences. So I've been working in the legal industry, I think it's more than plus minus 6-7 years, and I'm currently working at a company that I had resigned from 3 years ago, and I have completely two different experiences. It's the same company, the same people, the same roof, but my experiences are different. First time when I worked there, I was miserable. I'd go home and just be stressed. I even got to a point where I was in hospital for a couple of weeks because I was depressed. And that's when I had resigned. And a year and 6 months later, here I am back at the same company, and because there's certain things that when I took that break I had worked on to say, look, why was I so miserable? You know, why was I not making any impact? You know, I was given work, and for me it was, you know, you just do your work, you submit, as long as the report is submitted, that's it, you're done. And I went back to ask myself all those questions, and I began to address them, and I said, look, even when I had applied the second time, I think my boss said, what is it that you're going to do differently? And I said, look, I'm not looking for anything from you, but I've got something to give. And for me, the goal was to position myself in a place of serving. You know, what is it that I have? Because that is what fulfills me, that is what makes me happy. And I believe that is my purpose, to serve. And when I talk about serving, it can be in any place that you are in any position that you are in. And for me, I think even I treat it the same way when I'm at home, you know, with my family. It's always about, how can I make an impact? How am I serving, you know, my family? Because the moment you begin to take away, it becomes about you, and it becomes, you know, selfish. But then I always go back and say, but purpose is not really selfish, and there's a greater good for wanting to give, for giving and making an impact in other people's lives. And that is the same mindset and perspective that I had second time around when I went back to the company that I'm currently working for. And trust me, just because I have other passions that I'm pursuing and they are not directly in line with the profession, with my profession or line of work, it doesn't mean that that's it, that's the end of it. And how I managed to find my purpose in where I am, it was a matter of, look, I'm in a space that I'm in to serve. I'm in a place where, or I'm in a position where I'm able to better somebody else's life. You know, me being there and working and serving my clients, it means that, you know, it's one more firm that is moving away from you know, a bad managed firm, and it's me making a positive impact. You know, this is one more company that is making progress, and that makes me happy to know that, you know, I get clients who say, look, I loved that you came in and with your passion. And the funny part is that when you are enthusiastic about something and you are intentional about it, other people can see. Like I said, this is a ripple effect into every aspect and area of your life. Okay, and now I'm gonna move on to my second point, which is passion, purpose, profession. Are they distinct, and does one really have to choose between any of them? So, as I've said previously, I personally feel that you can't do one without the other. The moment you begin to choose, you are sacrificing something. You are either sacrificing your profession for, I don't know, your passion, or the other way around. And I'm not saying that it's a perfect world and that, you know, I'm a practical person and I'd like to be practical, and that's why it's easier for me to speak about this topic from a point of my experiences. Like I've said, that if you are choosing one without the other, you are then sacrificing something, and at the end of the day, the results that you're going to get is you feeling a void of that something is missing in your life. So I believe that all these things, they are fluid and that they link. So I'll give you an example that, say for instance, your interest is teaching, and you've now discovered that your purpose is to actually spread knowledge. Okay, so you have an option of, you could probably be, I don't know, let's just say you're a painter, but you know that, your purpose is to spread knowledge and you love teaching, but because of the circumstances around you, you are now a painter and you are stuck in this job where you are just miserable and you feel like you have no purpose. So what is practical for me is, like, again, we go back to our drawing board. I'm going to talk about a why, because it is such a big factor. Every time when you are thinking about your life and you feel stuck, just remember your why, your purpose. So I would go back to the drawing board and say, why am I feeling so miserable? Yes, I don't like the painting, but is there a way that I can incorporate my teaching in the work that I'm doing? And I think this really stands out for me, and I'll keep on saying it. You'll hear me phrase this all the time, that it's a matter of you asking yourself, because sometimes as people, we always wanting to wait till something gets better, till I have my millions. When I have my monies, then I will start to open that NGO. Or when I have that 100 million, I will begin to open a business. But how about starting where you are with what you have? Like what I have done now is, because I love corporates, or I love I have an interest in social development. And what I've done is I have volunteered in my workplace to be involved in the corporate social investment committee. I am very much active in doing that, and that also brings, my work is not so boring, because I put myself out there. Sometimes in life it's about just taking a step and putting yourself out there. So like I said, even if it's something your interests lie outside of your profession, how about you just start volunteering? Like I said, remember I said that it takes commitment, because when something is an interest and you don't act on it, it remains an interest. But when you act on it, it then becomes your purpose. It's now fueled. So you constantly need to go back and ask yourself that why question, and then if you can see that you are in this place and you are stuck at that time, then we now need to start thinking outside of the box. Okay, so I have time over the weekends. How about I start volunteering at that old age home, because that is something that you love. You're not gonna wait for the opportunity to knock at your door. We create opportunities for ourselves, and that is what I have done. I asked in the workplace. I'm implementing projects where we get people to donate items. We've partnered with, homes where we're able to make a difference. And I know that is my passion, and it gives me great, a good feeling to know that I can make an impact anywhere I am. I am not just limited by my circumstances or where I am in order for me to make a difference, So there's many other things you can do. Start listening to podcasts, follow the people that you want to be aligned with, volunteer at homes or, organizations that you would like to be aligned with in terms of your purpose, and like I said, it is a ripple effect. And when you put yourself out there, then other things will just unravel. Okay. And there's a statement that I like by T.D. Jakes. It says, if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. Your passion will lead you right into your purpose. And I think the main question that we all need to keep on asking ourselves is, what is our why? What is the why? Why am I feeling like this? And you will then begin to dig deep in yourself. And I think also another aspect, an important aspect, is mentorship. I'm so much for mentorship because that is something that I wish I had when I was younger. Somebody that could advise me, somebody that I can look up to, to make better decisions. And that is why I feel that even as organizations, we have a big responsibility that when we do recruitment, we understand people's passions, people's interests, and so that we can see how we can align that or fit it into the organization to make greater impact. And that is where I feel that organizations can come in and do their bit in that case. And another question that was asked was, there are people who have to choose between profession over passion for financial reasons, and how do they then navigate this? And I mean, I was one of those people who was affected by that, by my circumstances. All I knew was that I needed to make money. I needed to get into a profession that will allow me to make money so that I can feed, my hungry stomach and the people around me, and just provide for the family. And I ended up obviously being the miserable person that I was. And I feel that the lack of awareness that you can actually translate your passions or your fears into a profession is a big factor in our community. And again, I will emphasize that there is a need for organizations to question themselves of how they can take people and understand their interests and try and fit them into the organization. So I feel that if you find yourself in a position where you have to choose a career so that you may just fulfill your financial reasons over your passions, I think at some point you have to make time, like the fact, the activities that I mentioned, that you can volunteer, listen to podcasts, look for NGOs. I think mentorship, which is a big one. I know a number of organizations that provide mentorship for young girls and young boys, which is a big factor. If we can start, or even just engaging in these topics whilst we are very young, it could help us to make informed decisions in terms of the careers that we get into, the opportunities that we have to approach the issues that we have around us. We are then able to navigate around the decisions that we make in terms of our passions and our purpose and our profession. Another question that was posed was, how can young people align the 3 Ps in such a way that it fulfills their dreams and visions, but also puts food on the table? And this goes back to the question of why. I think a lot of us need to start reflecting and asking ourselves the hard questions which we are afraid to answer, which is, what impact am I making? What is it that makes me happy? You know, is this the life that I want to be leading, you know, forever? And I think that, like I said, that passion or purpose rather requires commitment, which is time. I find that I made an example about that you're a painter, but you have a passion for teaching, and you know that your purpose is to spread the knowledge. I think that you can begin to ask questions of how can I then use what I am currently doing to, you know, better the good, or to for the good of other people, or my purpose. You know, remember that your purpose is what fuels your passions. So maybe you can look into lecturing. You know, again, we have platforms like Facebook now. We are blessed with platforms like Instagram, where you can now reach a lot of people doing what you love to do. So I'll give an example. So with me, I'm also very, very passionate about mental health awareness. And because this is something that I can not do full time as yet, I have managed to start an organization where we discuss issues around mental health and awareness. And I also use my Instagram page to raise awareness around mental health issues, you know, and that is how I am finding the balance between, you know, my passions and my profession, you know. And if you find yourself that you are passionate about spreading knowledge and you love teaching, then you can get yourself into a position of applying for lecture jobs, or even opening up your own company where you can do life coaching. I think we are presented with a lot of opportunities in an age that we're living in. It's just unfortunate that we still have those people who are disadvantaged, and I think that this is where a lot of corporations, big organizations need to step in, you know, where they now offering assistance for the young people, for mentorship, you know, also giving out books and material on learning on the subject of how we can navigate around our passions and profession. So another big factor is that the youth accounts for 60% of all Africa's jobless, and this is according to the World Bank. How does the high unemployment rate affect one's passion, purpose, and profession? This has a negative impact. I have been in a position where I was unemployed, and this was not for a very long time. I think it was about 3 months or so. And the impact that it had on me for that short period of time was a very, very negative one. So I can imagine that people who have completed their studies and they've been sitting for years and years, you know, and they're not working, or even just, you know, the people who are who are less advantaged, I think they become demoralized, they become demotivated, and because all you are thinking of is feeding your hungry stomach, surely you would take anything that's being offered to you. So at that point, you're not thinking, I think I will only take a job that, you know, is aligned to my passion and purposes. I mean, if you have not been eating for days, you know, if you cannot even afford to buy yourself toiletries, and it's hard for one to just sit there and just say, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wait for a job that is aligned to my passions. So yes, the unemployment rate does have a negative impact on the three factors, and I think that this is something that the more advantaged people, or even as the youth and our organizations, and just then as a nation and as Africa, that we all come together. And I know that there's a lot of organizations and programs and projects that are being put in place to combat the unemployment rate. But then I also think that our schools, your high schools, have a big impact on how we on how, or they have a big impact on the decisions that we make when we leave school. So I think this is also something that can be brought in when, I think it's life orientation or life skills that's what they call it now. It's something that can be brought into the curriculum, that we make informed decisions, that I'm not saying that this is something that can be resolved instantly, but if we start sparking debates and we start having conversations around these things, and we start to adopt, the young children, and we speak of our experiences, because there's so much power in storytelling and just sharing, then we can get to the goal of having a nation or a generation that is fueled more by their passions, and not just for the fact of, we just want to feed our stomachs. And I think lastly, I was asked the question that, do I believe that COVID-19 has hindered people from achieving the 3 Ps? And how do I foresee the 3 Ps playing a role in COVID-19? Okay, so this is a yes and no answer. Yes, COVID-19 has hindered people from achieving their 3 Ps, because you find that you could have planned something that required you maybe to travel if you had a mission, to have your meetings abroad, or you had organized, a seminar. I mean, we can already see the impact that it's having on our economy already, that demoralizes people. That already, I mean, if you are being hit in your pocket, I think we can all attest and know that then already that now demotivates you. But then again, I would say no, in a sense that I have seen, or personally seen, that while we've been staying at home, a lot of us have been reflecting. We have more time to fine-tune, our skills, our passions. I see a lot of people who are writing, those who've always wanted to write, they are writing. It's provided opportunities, because we have this time on our hands to reflect and to do the things that we actually love. And I think I've seen how people are just doing all these TikTok videos. I've seen people who have started blogs, and I'm one of those people. So personally, it has helped me to reflect and help me fine-tune or just start implement on the things that I've always wanted to do, which form part of my passions and my purpose. And I think that some people are going to get the rest that they need, so that when they return to their normal activities, they are refreshed and they can even become better employees in their organizations. So it does have a positive and a negative impact. And yeah, I think this has come to an end, and I'm open to answer any questions that you have. So we've got 15 minutes for a question and answer session. Yeah, and this is me speaking about the passion, purpose, and profession topic. And thank you everyone for listening and taking your time to listen to this. And I think that this webinar has given me an opportunity and many other people to start having conversations in their communities, with their friends, with their family, you know, just discussing these issues. And I think we can at some point, you know, come up together as the youth to say that how do we then, you know, get other people to be aware, you know, of these factors, and how we can all just better the youth and the generation that is to come. So thank you. I will be taking your questions now. Okay, I don't see any questions. Okay, so I have two questions here. So it says, what's your take on the memes that have been going around that you need to have started that business or lost that weight during this lockdown? Sure. I think I've been having this conversation with a couple of my friends, saying that I think that we have all been given different, or let me just say the circumstances are different. I know we're all going through the same thing, but our circumstances are different, and I feel like we do not need to hit to the pressure of having to do something. I think we all have different needs. For some people, they may need rest. For some people, they may just need time to reflect, you know, and some people may just be utilizing the time to I don't know, to get into their interest, which is, cooking, or it could just be reading, doing a lot of baking. So I don't think there's a need for people to feel pressured that they should be doing something, because then we are all doing something different with the time that we have. And remember that this is a pandemic. It's not a holiday. So some people are already in shock of what's going on. So we have people who have depression and anxiety, so they're still dealing with that. And I think that them having to lose the weight or whatever is the least of their worries. So for me, there's no need for the pressure. We all have different circumstances. We all have different needs. So yeah, I don't have the pressure. I'm not feeling the pressure. I mean, well, I've been trying to lose weight, but hey, I just find myself, eating more and more and more in the kitchen. And the second question is, what I'm asking is, do you think these things add unnecessary pressure and can have a negative impact to people mentally? Absolutely. I mean, social media has a big influence around the world. And I think that, I have, for the longest time, I have not been a fan of social media. I have not been on social media for the longest time. And I think that it's only this year that I got back into social media. And the reasons why I got back was so that I could use them to my advantage, in terms of I'd follow the right people. So I'm using it for the good, and I mean, this is arguably that what is the good that we're talking about. For instance, I've mentioned that there's certain things that I'm passionate about, so I use it to follow people who are doing mental health awareness. I'm following bloggers who are speaking about topics of passion, profession. I'm following people who are doing yoga, and that is how it's beneficial for me, and I think that, look, it's to everyone's discretion of how they are using the social media, but I do believe that it does have a great impact on people's mental wellness, because not everyone is or has the emotional intelligence to just decide not to heed or fall to the peer pressure. And yeah, I think that's me. I don't have any other questions. I don't see any other questions. Okay, I'll just wait 2 more minutes, and if there aren't any more questions, I will then end the webinar. And yeah, I would again like to thank everyone for watching, for everyone taking their time, and I hope that this is something you can take, and this is this has opened a platform for the people who have been watching to take this outside and spark conversations and debate around this topic. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert and I know everything or an expert at this topic, but because it's something that is so close to my heart, I felt that it's something that we need to raise awareness of, and I hope that you can do the same thing. Yeah, I'll surely be doing a follow-up on this, and also just doing a lot more research work around it. Okay. Okay, I've got another one. It says, okay, sorry, I may have missed this, but what are some tools and resources one should utilize while trying to reflect on what their why is? I think the biggest one for me is mentorship. I think that there are some things that you would need somebody who is outside, to a different perspective, somebody who can guide, somebody who has experience, That is a big factor for me. I know that mentorship has helped me a lot. And I'm also very big on therapy, you know, not necessarily, it can be anything or anyone, you know, that you look up to, or that you can just have conversations with, just open up, and I think that's where it starts. And I also do a lot of journaling. There's an app that's called the Gratitude app that also helped me to you know, it poses questions, or it has prompts that will sort of guide you into the direction of, you know, posing the or asking the relevant questions as to why. There's also a lot of reading material and books that you can read on that speak about purpose and that speak about passions. There's also a lot of blogs that you can actually read on, and also on Instagram there are a lot of pages that actually speak on purpose and how you can just align that to your career path. Yeah, I think all right, I see there's another question here. Passions really do change with time and encounter with new information and experience, as well as self-discovery. Also, that was a comment. And okay, I think I have answered all the questions. I'm going to end the live webinar now, and I would just like to thank each and every one of you again for taking your time and engaging with me. And I hope that we can just do a follow-up on this, you know, or even have more discussions around this topic. Yeah, I wish everyone a lovely weekend, long weekend. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for tuning in. Goodbye.